Okay, so welcome to the first Excel example. So we're actually starting off with one from the book. And the idea of the example in the book is we're just showing you that different models can be fit in different ways. And we have the same problem here. We're trying to predict demand given price, i.e., say for example, I have a jacket. If it's $80, a lot of people are going to buy it. It's probably a good value. We get down to $120, and it's probably more expensive than equivalent jackets. There's probably some people who still want to buy it, but um, it's not going to quite have the demand. So generally, as price goes up, demand will go down. Something very basic from economics. And we have two equations here. We have a linear equation where as price goes up, demand goes down in a straight line. And then we have a nonlinear equation. Now, as we go on in the book, what we will do is we will take actual demand, and these are what we call the parameters in the function. Here for the linear, we have A and B. For the nonlinear, we have C and D. And we can actually find the best values of these. But for the moment, all we're going to do is we're going to put this graph into the spreadsheet. Now, what I usually do when I do these examples is I'll usually make a few deliberate mistakes. So don't see me do this and think I don't know what I'm doing. There are some deliberate mistakes in here to try, which I think sometimes is the best way to learn. So let's first put the formula into Excel. And this is demand. So we want the demand given the price $80. So a good kind of strategy to do this is to actually just put the actual equation in first. And what we're going to do now is we're going to replace the values. So we can see that B4 is the A, and Excel highlights it nicely. B5 is the B. And we need, if we're multiplying two values, we actually need a multiplication. And the price is going to be A8. And that gets us the demand. And look, we see this works from the graph. But what we want here is we want to get every single demand. Now, what you can do with Excel is you can do a drop down. So you can actually put the formula in here and paste it to all of these cells. Now, you could actually go, what you would do is you would now press Control and D for dog, at the same time. Now, this actually isn't going to work, and I'll show you why. Whoops, something's gone terribly wrong. Now, what's happened is you see this is B4 minus B5, so these are parameters times A8. Now, the next one, it's B5 and B minus B6 times A9. It's like, what? So the idea is we want to move these down. We want to move the price down, but we want to keep the these as 20,010. And the way we do this is instead of B4, we put a dollar before the 4. And this means if we drag it, it doesn't change the value. Now, we could actually put a dollar before the B, and that meant if we drag to the right, then it wouldn't change the actual cell that we're referencing to. But here we're going to put the dollar before the 4, and the 4 means that when we drag it, it's going to stay a 4. And here, equivalently with the B5, we're going to put a dollar and click yes. And this means if we go down, now you see here the price value. So this is A8, A9, A10, 11, and 12. Those change. But the B4 and the B5, our parameter values do not change. So let's now try this with the nonlinear model. So again, let's do what we did before, and let's type in our C times P minus D. So we have, firstly, we have our C value, which is our kind of constant of demand. So this is 20,000 times my price. So the P is going to be this one here, which in this case is D8. Now this is saying they want the price to the power of our minus D. Now what we would do is the power in Excel is this here. So it should be above the 6 in your keyboard. So Shift and whatever is above 6. If you've got like a really strange keyboard, it might not be true, but just look for the little kind of almost like pointy triangle on your keyboard, and that means power. And then to the power of minus D, and it's minus, and it's this value here. And this I put in 20,000, but it's actually want to refer to E4. Now, we need to make a few changes because we don't want this power to apply to the entire equation. So I'm going to actually put this in brackets. So we've got D8 to the power of minus E5. And of course, remember what we did with before. We're not going to make this same mistake this time. We're going to put the dollars on the parameters, so when we drag it down, it doesn't change. So let's drag it down. And here you can see this is almost linear. We could actually we could change this curve a little bit by changing our parameters. But again, we wait until later in the course until we actually find the best parameters for given data. So this was just a very simple example in which we utilize a formula for a model. We've got some input values and we calculate some output values. And we have to be very aware how we build this up. We're referring to the parameter cells, and we have to have the dollar, so those don't change when we drag it. And we multiply or by the price value.